A late-night train collision between Thessaloniki and Larissa in Greece leaves dozens dead and scores injured.
Russia claims that several Ukrainian drones were detected in its territory, including one in the Moscow region.
Seeking support on each side of the divide over Ukraine, Lukashenko heads to China while Blinken is in Central Asia.
The UK's Prime Minister says he's over the moon after striking a new agreement with the EU over the Northern Ireland Protocol.
Two trains have collided in central Greece, killing at least 32 people and injuring dozens. The late-night incident happened near the city of Larissa, some 380 kilometres north of Athens. The collision involved a passenger train and an oncoming freight train. The passenger train was travelling between Thessaloniki and Larissa. It had around 350 passengers on board when the collision occurred. Multiple carriages derailed and at least 3 caught fire. Rescuers wearing headlamps worked in thick smoke, pulling away mangled metal to try and reach trapped passengers. Hospital officials in the city of Larissa say at least 85 people were injured, some seriously. The army was brought in to assist. It's not yet known what caused the collision.
Russia's defense ministry has accused Ukraine of attempting to carry out drone attacks near its Black Sea coast, while Moscow's governor reported a drone crash around 100 kilometers southeast of the country's capital. The defense ministry says the drones were targeting civilian infrastructure, and the country's forces disabled them through radio-electronic warfare. Russian regions bordering Ukraine are reportedly regularly targeted by Ukrainian drones. St. Petersburg's airport was closed Tuesday morning after detecting an unidentified flying object. According to Russian media, it came from the Gulf of Finland, and the authorities sent several fighter jets to intercept it. The Kremlin says Russian President Vladimir Putin is aware of the situation in his hometown of St. Petersburg.
Belarus leader Alexander Lukashenko arrived in Beijing on Tuesday for a visit that could give clues over China's attitude to Russia's war in Ukraine. Lukashenko is one of Vladimir Putin's key allies. Belarus continues to host Russian troops and equipment. Looking to wean countries off Russian influence, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken brought a warning to Central Asia that Washington will watch sanctions compliance very closely. But his stick and carrot approach also brings a pledge of economic support as he seeks to deepen US engagement in the former Soviet republics. The message he received from Astana, Kazakhstan, appreciates US support, but will tread a fine line without aligning too closely with either side.
Joy in Westminster, as British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has struck an agreement with the EU over the Northern Ireland Brexit Protocol. Sunak argues that it will restore and safeguard the sovereignty of the UK, the main complaint of his detractors.
All of you will be thinking, I'm over the moon that yesterday we managed to have a decisive breakthrough with our negotiations with the EU, reached agreement, the new Windsor framework, that I think is an extraordinary positive step for Northern Ireland, and it represents, as the European Union President herself said, a historic moment for us to move forward and resolve some of the difficulties.
The DUP says it will not second the new protocol unless custom controls on most products arriving in Northern Ireland from other parts of the United Kingdom are lifted. Getting the backing of Northern Ireland's other parties will be Sunak's next challenge. If the DUP gives it the go-ahead, along with the backing of Tory Brexiteers, power sharing can resume. Relations between London and Brussels will have been rid of one of its biggest obstacles. Kosovo has accused Serbia of refusing to sign an agreement that would normalize relations after months of rising political tensions. This after the leaders of both nations approved an EU-sponsored plan on Monday. This deal in part calls for both sides to recognize each other's official documents.
Do kraja godine, ove godine, mi nećemo imati početak svega toga jer treba da se održavaju izbori na severu Kosova i oni naravno da uslovljavaju i formiranje zajednice srpskih opština, jer bez njih ne može početi formiranje zajednice srpskih opština.
Tensions have simmered between Serbia and Kosovo since it broke away in 2008. And recently, there has been an escalation over a dispute over vehicle license plates and the arrest of an ethnic Serb police officer, stoking fears of another bloody conflict in the region.
Dozvoljena je slobodna interpretacija i sada je glavno pitanje kada su ovi sporazumi objavljeni i dostupni javnosti, kako će javnosti na Kosovu i u Srbiji na to i reagovati.
After the initial announcement, a senior U.S. official said Washington had high expectations for the plan, and Albania called it an important achievement. The leaders of both countries are expected to meet next month to continue negotiations.
The pharmaceutical industry is battling to reform European legislation on medicines. At the end of March, the European Commission will present plans to revise the EU pharmaceuticals legislation in what will be an update to a 20-year-old text. In this high-stakes game of influence, the industry is stepping up its lobbying efforts to make its voice heard. Part of its action plan is already visible in the heart of the European Quarter in Brussels. Its advertising campaign highlights the ever-widening gap between the EU and its American and Asian competitors in terms of investment and access to the latest treatments.
There are some significant gaps. The investment gap between the US and the EU 20 years ago was 2 billion euros, and now it's 25 billion euros. That's 1,000% increase in gap, and that's very worrying. That trend continues, and we want to stop it and reverse it.
The sector adds that 25 years ago, 50% of new treatments came from Europe, whereas today only 1 in 5 new ones do so. It's why the pharmaceutical industry is alarmed by the Commission's possible new plans. They say it could threaten European competitiveness and employment, especially when some companies are beginning to transfer some of their activities outside of the EU.
In recent years, we've seen, unfortunately, a move of clinical research to other parts of the world. We've seen investment moving again to the U.S. and other parts of the world. The U.S. has taken what used to be Europe's leading advantage for biotechnology, and now it's in the U.S., and we'd like to see Europe reclaim that role.
One thing working in Big Pharma's favour, though, is their economic weight. The sector is worth 43 billion euros per year when it comes to research and development. It directly employs 840,000 people and supports as many as 2.5 million jobs in the EU. Inevitably, it can flex its muscles, so to speak. For the moment, though, the Commission is plodding on with its work, stressing that the aim of the pharmaceuticals reform is to strike the right balance between promoting innovation and ensuring access to affordable medicines across the EU.
This dog is called Keeper, a four-legged bot able to autonomously navigate through any environment that needs inspecting or to be mapped.
Les decimos lo que tienen que hacer, ¿no? Pero sí que es verdad que puedan trabajar solos. Ese es el objetivo, que trabajen solos, que nos ayuden en sitios peligrosos donde hay tóxicos, inflamables, donde poner a personas es un peligro.
Artificial intelligence is one of the hot topics this year among the more than 700 technology companies participating in 4 years from now, the startup event of the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Experts say 2023 is a turning point as technologies such as natural language processing, image recognition and data analysis advance. And this is beginning to be noticed in companies and individuals who can make more efficient use of data and automate tasks previously done manually.
En este caso, inteligencia artificial funciona como un chatbot y lo que hace es seleccionar cuál es la mejor pregunta que hacerle al paciente para llegar más rápido a la pantalla de resultados.
or this other device programmed to adapt its trajectory to pick up a specific object. There are many examples of AI with a sci-fi feel in the corridors of the Mobile World Congress.
Con un selfie de mi cara, esta tecnología de aprendizaje automático es capaz de hacer un diagnóstico de mi estado de salud en 30 segundos, haciendo una comparativa con otros 40.000 pacientes, escaneando rasgos difíciles de percibir para un ojo humano, pero no para la inteligencia artificial.
But can machines think for themselves? Can they question the tasks they have been trained to do?
But actually making humans better, getting more information into humans, that's a definite plus to anything that artificial intelligence can give. Trust is a different thing. We tend to know when we're interacting with a machine. So if I'm using ChatGPT, if I'm using an Amazon, if I'm using services like that, I know as a human I'm interacting with a machine. I think the evolution of AI is when as we've discussed today at MWC, is when we don't know that we're interacting with a machine or potentially not. That raises huge trust issues there as well.
Experts agree that AI is not evolving to be better than us, but to make our lives better, like this robot programmed to assist the elderly.
Muchas personas nos preguntan si ponemos robots en domicilios, la gente que hace este trabajo se va a quedar en el paro. No, nosotros no pretendemos sustituir a nadie. El robot a día de hoy es un apoyo tanto para la familia como para el cuidador, como para la persona mayor que está sola. Es una continuación y una atención las 24 horas del día, que por desgracia es imposible que lo hagamos sin estos asistentes personales.